y'all, this is May and welcome back to my channel for a brand new speed build. So today I'm building a bigger Mediterranean inspired family home in Oasis Springs as part of the save file I'm currently working on. And as always, I do have a playlist up on my channel with all the builds I've done so far for this save file. So if you haven't checked it out, make sure to do so after this video. It's actually been a while since I finished this house, but it's taken me quite some time to get around to editing the speed build and ultimately doing the voiceover, but I'm super glad to finally be on it and that I can share it with you all today. I have been focusing on finishing up some builds that I have been procrastinating finishing, and there's also a wedding venue just across the street here that has also been a work in progress for a while, but now hopefully I'll be able to share it within the next couple of weeks. So if you did watch the tour video of my current save file, you'll probably recognize today's build, but also that wedding venue. And if you haven't checked out the touring video yet, it is up on my channel and you'll get a preview of how the save file is looking put together so far. There's only one empty lot in this neighborhood at this point of me recording this voiceover, and I'm planning on having a vacation rental home on that last lot here, because I actually haven't made a vacation rental for my save file yet. I'm currently just focusing on renovating the worlds coming with the base game, so I felt like it was kind of needed to have some sort of rental if any of your sims would like to have a vacation away in this, like warmer environment of Oasis Springs. So that is definitely on my list of what to do next. And as you probably noticed, today's video is a bit of a longer one because the interior of today's build is quite intricate. I would say there are a lot of rooms and details, but it is also just a big home in general, even if I tried to scale it down a bit, as you probably already have seen in the video here, or it's coming up at a later point. But yeah, especially on this bigger lot, I didn't want the house to take up all the space like I've done probably a couple of times before previously. So this time I definitely wanted to leave space for trees and plants and all, like the surrounding environment of the house. And I have to admit, the exterior took me some time to get right. So the outside of the house here will be going through a few different versions before I eventually end up with this more colorful exterior. And yeah, I combine this darker blue concrete wall with a more creamy beige one, I would say. And I think that ends up looking really good together. And I do believe back when I did start this and I was trying to get it right, I was inspired to do this color combination for the exterior. I saw Michaela Sims YT, who is also a simmer and builder who you will find here on YouTube, and she had a similar color scheme for one of her builds a while ago. So I think I found that on Google or maybe Pinterest even. And yeah, eventually I add more color using some purple vines running up the walls. Those are from the Jungle Adventure Pack, and I just love using those to add a pop of color and make a home more detail. And I also add this type of stone texture on the outside along with the blue and beige that I talked about just now. So there are a lot of different colors and textures together, which I always think just makes a build look more unique. And at first I wanted this kind of taller portion or tower, if you will, at the front of the house here, but as I was building and I came back to this build a couple of times as I was doing the exterior, it just looked a bit out of place, so eventually I do end up deleting that third floor, and instead I just settle for a second floor with just a regular roof there at the front of the build there. And I have deleted some of the footage of me just being indecisive while building this, so I hope that's not too much of a bother. I just felt like there would have been a lot of unnecessary footage in that case, and it did shorten the video a bit, which I didn't mind at least. But yeah, one thing I did know I wanted, however, is this garage part at the front of the home, because there is going to be a separate rental space in that garage part with a small kitchen, bathroom and bedroom, and I will get back to who is going to stay there a little later on in the video. But I thought it would be a bit different from my regular houses and, just have that separate space. So the first floor here has medium wall height, and therefore I got to use one of my favorite doors for that garage space, and that is the medium height sliding door from Snowy Escape. And I'm using it in a darker brown swatch here because the other doors and windows will also have that similar color, because I'd love to have all of those like small details match one another. So, and yeah, we have the very standard red roof tiles going on here, which I do believe I've used on majority of these Mediterranean inspired or mission inspired builds in Oasis Springs for my save as well so far. And it just looks really good with the colors I mentioned earlier too. I think I went back and forth a lot with the windows, especially for this build, but eventually I end up with the ones from the Lovestruck pack. And Lovestruck is definitely the pack I've used the most in Oasis Springs, along with Jungle Adventure and maybe My Wedding Stories, Iron Cats and Dogs as well, because I use the windows and doors from those two last packs there a lot for the other builds as well. Like the swatches match really well. So I quite enjoyed making this type of architecture for the save, which is kind of surprising, I would say, because before starting my save file, this was a style I was kind of intimidated by. So whenever I tried to do something similar before, I never ended up liking it. But this time around, I think the biggest difference is that I found packs I think work really well together for this type of style. Which I think is important. Again, like I said, finding packs that has items with either similar or the same swatches, especially the wood swatches, is quite nice, and I think that has helped me improve my builds of this style, which hopefully makes sense somehow, I'm not sure. So yeah, as you saw, I had the My Wedding Stories windows here at the beginning, but I switched them out with the Lovestruck ones that fit a bit better, and it adds a bit of variety among the other builds you'll find in this save file. But you won't just find these types of builds in Oasis Springs, because there's one neighborhood with more retro mid-century builds, and then there will be some Adobe inspired builds, and on the commercial strip you will find more modern builds as well. But definitely a higher percentage of the builds will look a bit similar to the one I'm doing today. But yeah, I think Oasis Springs is a world that is versatile in that way that you can mix and match a lot of different styles, and that's one thing I quite like about this world. You can also see that I'm using this archway at the front of the build here where the entry door is, and this is another detail I've noticed is quite prevalent for this sort of houses. So I've done a few of those archways next to one another there, and you'll find the entry door just beyond there, and that door has a curved top, so it actually fits quite well with the archway. And yeah, since this is a larger lot, I believe this is a 40 by 30 lot, which isn't the biggest lot, mind you, there's still a lot of free space, and I had lots of space to have a front yard, if you will, and also like a backyard. So I made quite a large pathway or driveway here with the stone flooring at the front. And initially I had a more like orange red stone here, but eventually I switched it out with the like darker Jungle Adventure ones, which I've used a couple of times before, but it just works really well with, again, like this type of style, I would say. And I used it in the backyard as well, where there will be a rather big grill or outdoors cooking area. There will be a pool and, you know, just like the regular sun loungers by the pool, and a dining area, which I feel like I do quite often for my builds. But for this one, I also believe I added in the darts board, which I rarely use for some reason, but yeah, it is there as well. I actually don't remember how long it took me to do the floor plan of this house. I think the first floor kind of came together rather quickly, but it's been a while since I built this, so I can't really recall. But I actually think the second floor was maybe a bit trickier because I had to redo it at least once, but we'll get to that in a moment, because I would also like to talk about the household that is going to be living in today's build. So if you're familiar with the base game townies, one of them, Jay Huntington, is going to be living here with his dad, his stepmom, half a sister, and the one living in the garage rental space is going to be Johnny Zest, who is also another townie you'll find in the like just base game. So first of all, Jay Huntington originally lives in the Roomies household in Oasis Springs alongside Zoe Patel, Gavin Richards, and Mitchell Kalani, but I've decided to split them all up for my save. And I recently did Zoe Patel's house, for example, and I'm still working on the remaining household members' houses. And Jay, well, I always imagined he would be from a wealthier family. He just kind of gives me that vibe. So I made his dad, James, who is a lawyer, and I felt like Jay would be the kind of son to follow in his dad's footsteps. So he is also starting out in the lawyer career, the one that came with the Discover University pack. I wouldn't think Jay has the best relationship with his dad or his stepmom, yet he still lives here with them. I just think his dad has a lot of expectations of Jay, and I would imagine it's a lot of pressure seeing as Jay is the oldest. He was the only child for a long while until his half sister Rosa came to the world, and therefore it's probably expected of Jay to make something out of himself, if you will. So Jay also has the traits active, bro, and non-committal. And seeing as he is non-committal, he might not even be sure if this career path his dad has chosen for him is the right fit for him. So you'll probably get the one to quit his job when playing with him. And for those of you who don't know, it is kind of canon that Johnny Zest is the oldest son of Nancy and Jeffrey Landgrab. But Johnny doesn't want to be associated with his family, thus the last name change. So he's probably either been kicked out for wanting to do music or he left on his own. However, he is currently a university student in my save file, and he will be studying fine arts at Foxbury University. And he's got a dream to make music in the future, to be an entertainer of sorts. So that's why you're going to find a mixing table in his apartment here, along with the guitar and the speakers and all. So lots of like musical instruments and influences. He's a bit of a mischievous guy though, as he's got the goofball trait, and he's also outgoing and a music lover, which does fit quite well for what he wants to do in the future. And originally Johnny Zest, he lives in a trailer home, still in Oasis Springs, but I wanted something new for him for my save file, so that's why he's going to be residing in this garage rental space. And the reason why he's living specifically here with Jay's family out of all places is because I imagine they grew up together very close to one another. I mean, the Landgrab house and this house aren't that far apart from each other. So they might be the same age and they have gone to school with one another and stuff like that. So they're friends. And since the garage apartment was available, Jay probably offered Johnny to stay there for the time being. And I just realized there's a lot of names starting with J. So I hope you're following me. But yeah, I don't know what Jay did in order to convince his dad to let Johnny stay there. But Johnny's paying rent, so I guess it didn't really matter that much who's staying there as long as it's being used and they're getting paid for it. I just mentioned that Johnny's in a family with the Landgrabs, but it actually doesn't show that in their family tree once you start up the save file, like a new one. But I've changed that for my save, just so we know that it's actually a thing in the game. And yeah, I did make the Landgrabs a new mansion, by the way. It must be a couple of months ago now, actually, but it took me a while to put that together because it's quite massive. But I'm really glad I did some of the bigger lots earlier on. I still have a few left though, and I'm especially thinking of the park lots in Oasis Springs and Willow Creek. Plus, there is a larger lot in Newcrest that I'm thinking about turning into a recreation center, just so that there's one place with a lot of different activities and you don't have to go from one place to another, you know, with a loading screen all the time. And like I said, today's build too is, I would say, a bigger one. So once again, glad to be sharing it with all of you today. And if I go back to the household for a bit, I did mention James. He's, of course, Jay's elderly dad. So he's got the gray hair and all. He's in the lawyer career as a judge. So he's pretty far up in the career. And he's not retired yet. He's still going strong. However, he has a tendency of being a bit mean. Same with his wife, Crystal, who is an adult. So James is ambitious, self-confident, and mean. And what I chose for Crystal are mean, romantic, and materialistic. She probably has an interest in money, for sure. So it's all not just love, I would say. So yeah, she's currently not working anywhere, Crystal. She's mostly a stay-at-home mom, and I wouldn't know for sure if she's thinking about starting working or not. I mean, James is still earning enough to pay for the bills and the house and all, so it might not be the first thing on her to-do list. And Crystal also has the romantic explorer aspiration, so that's something you all can play around with if you end up playing with this household. But yeah, I think the family dynamics again are a bit different for this family than the other families I've introduced in my previous speed builds, but I think that's just fun. It's a lot of fun coming up with all of the Sims and their stories. I do think Crystal could be friends with someone like Nancy Langreb for sure. Maybe they're in the same club, like the Books and Nectar Club that's held at the Langreb house every week or something like that. Because I am planning on creating a few different clubs using the system from Get Together and get multiple Sims into them just to make the Sims more sociable and like they actually know each other. Because in the default save file, no one really knows each other. So I would love to change that. And as I mentioned earlier, James and Crystal, they also have a daughter, Rosa, who is now a toddler. And Rosa, ironically enough, she has a thing for pink. So Rosa means pink in Norwegian as well as Spanish, I think, and probably some other languages as well. So I made her bedroom quite pink with some hints of purple or burgundy as well. And I think her bedroom actually was quite fun to do, a bit different from what I usually do. And I think I also chose the meanie trait for Rosa. So I realized they're all kind of mean people. And I would say Rosa, she probably learns from her parents, unfortunately. The last family member here is their dog, a Pomeranian named Princess, and I think she just looks so adorable. She has a lot of space to roam around outside in the backyard, and I did remember to add a food bowl and the toy box just by the door to the backyard. I have done a majority of the first floor here already, and I would say it's a mix between modern and perhaps a bit like fancy, I guess. And the kitchen and the dining is my favorite space in this house. I love the dark blue concrete walls and the white and blue backsplash from Lovestruck. And that backsplash swatch is my favorite, even though I would have loved to have more neutral swatches to it as well because they're all quite colorful. So the blue and white is the most calming one to me, and it works quite well with the other colors here, like the blue, brown, beige, and black. Something fun I decided to do with the kitchen though was to add in some of these support walls, if you will, to kind of separate the kitchen from the dining space a bit more. And so it was perfect for me to use some of the island counters as well. I don't think I actually got the space to add in bar stools for the island counters, but there will be a long table in the dining area, plus a smaller table in the living room as well, which would probably be used for smaller gatherings or game nights or anything like that. The room that I redid the most for this house must have been the living room though. I tried out so many different versions and layouts and nothing really hit, so in the end I decided to just use some of the those counters I'm using in the kitchen here and some cabinets to frame in the big TV on the wall. There's a lot of couches in there. I think there's three-seaters, which I very rarely do. Most of the time I use a three-seater in the back, like farthest away from the TV, and then I combine it with like a love seat or an armchair. But here I had a lot of space, so I decided to take advantage of that. I made an office for James at the first floor as well. I would say it's pretty standard, pretty simple. I wasn't too sure what to add at the back of the room though, but I really wanted to have a bar in this house somewhere, and then I thought, why not just have it in the office, because maybe some clients would like to have a drink, or James is just sipping on something when he's working late or something like that. I do have to say there are a lot of bathrooms in this house. I realized that when I was decorating this that I made way too many bathrooms for this family. I mean, it is a big house and sometimes these big houses just have an unnecessarily amount of bathrooms. So I think I ended up with 3 bathrooms on the first floor and 4 on the second floor. And they definitely don't need that many bathrooms. But I don't think I would have known what to put in those rooms otherwise. And that also brings me over to the bedrooms in this house. So in total, there are 5 bedrooms, and one of them being Johnny's on the first floor, and another one being a pretty simple guest bedroom on the second floor, just in case family or friends would like to stay over. Johnny's apartment space here isn't the biggest, but like I mentioned earlier on, we do have a small kitchen. It has the same style and items as the main kitchen. And there's kind of a living room as well. I mean, there's kind of an open concept going on here, so it flows really well together. But the sofa is definitely one that Johnny brought in himself, and I decided to put a smaller standing TV on one of the island counters facing the couch and then also a gaming console. So there isn't really a fancy setup or anything going on, just very casual. And I feel like Johnny's probably just a chill guy, you know? I would assume he didn't get a lot of money with him after leaving home, so there are some furniture here that I would imagine he brought with him. So it might be a weird mix of the more modern, fancy looking kitchen with some of his things, but I kind of like it. It makes it more realistic. Since you probably don't bring with you a whole kitchen set to a new apartment, or at least here in Norway, you might need to get kitchen appliances like a fridge or stove or dishwasher, or you bring with you your current ones if you have any. Or like in my apartment, the appliances was there already. I didn't have any since I moved for the first time last year, and it's been like half a year already, I believe. But actually, I do recall, and this is something that Simmery Sims told in her stream once a while back. Since she's from the Netherlands, she said something about many people in the Netherlands. They bring their entire floors and kitchens with them when they move. And to me, especially the floor one, sounds kind of wild, not gonna lie. Kind of tedious work to do as well. And I'm not entirely sure why you would do that, but yeah, I just thought of that. So tell me, is that normal where you live as well, or is there like any other special things you normally need to bring with you when moving apartments? Or do any of you know why you would bring the floors with you? I would be really interested in hearing more about that if that's the case. These are the type of things that I don't really think about or think is any different in from like other countries, but seemingly they are. But yeah, so Johnny's bedroom doesn't have all the space in the world either. I managed to fit in a cheaper looking double bed. There's a bunch of posters on the walls, a wardrobe, and I love using the bean bag, so it's going in there as well. I imagine he'd still have some of those cardboard boxes just lying around in there with stuff he managed to bring with him from his childhood home, and he's just never gotten around to unpacking, or he simply doesn't have the space for it all. And like I mentioned earlier on in the voiceover, I redid one side of the second floor at least once. So that's the side where Jay's and Rosa's bedrooms are. So that's like the left hand side of the house from the front. And I decorated Jay's bedroom last because for some reason I struggled a bit like capturing what I wanted for his bedroom. And honestly, bedrooms tend to be my least favorite rooms to decorate. And there were quite a few of them in this house. So maybe that's why it took me a while to finish this up. And same with the bathrooms, as mentioned earlier, there are 4 of them up on the second floor. And I do skip over some of them in the speed build because it's a bit repetitive, like a lot of the bathrooms in this house are very similar, probably just with minor changes or differences. So I hope it's okay that I don't show all of the bathrooms. There are a lot of beige, brown, darker blue tones in this house, like especially on the walls. There's definitely a red thread of those walls throughout the majority of the build. And then there's Jay's bedroom with his darker walls, like black walls, which again is quite the contrast to Rosa's bedroom, which has like all of these pink accent walls. And then we have the splash of lighter blue with a Lovestruck backsplash, which as mentioned I use in the kitchen, but also in majority of the bathrooms. I don't think I mentioned using that in the bathrooms as well earlier, but I don't think I've ever used that backsplash in a bathroom before. But you know, it kind of works there as well. It gives it more personality, if you will. And I don't think I did a bathtub in any of the other bathrooms except one of the second floor ones here. And I got reminded to add one because Rosa is a toddler, and if you're gonna clean up a toddler in this game, you would need a bathtub. Otherwise, I do know you can use the sink to clean up maybe an infant and a toddler, but you would have to do it a couple of times if I'm not mistaken. So it's probably a bit easier to just use the bathtub, so I added one here. James and Crystal's bedroom is located on the right hand side of the house here, and I tried to make it look a bit fancy. They've got double wardrobes going on here. They have their own ensuite. And I'm using this beautiful bed from the Life and Death pack. I absolutely love this darker green color with the gold accents, like the golden brown flower pattern on the bed cover here. And I love the headboard as well, just like very stunning. We also have a couch in here. I think I actually ended up using the same one as in the living room, just in a darker swatch instead. And I thought Crystal would love to have one of these vanity tables for doing her makeup and skincare and all that. So I got one from the Vintage Glamour pack, the kind of like less modern looking one. And otherwise it's just very simple, like a simple bedroom I would say. I didn't want to overclutter it or anything. And I also love that they've got a balcony attached to their bedroom. So they have an amazing view of the backyard and just the surrounding environment in general. Also, the fluffy rug I use beneath the bed is one of my favorites now. So this one is from the Lovestruck pack, and we do have a few variants of the fluffy rug now, but I just love this one. It's got some nice swatches as well, and I think the pink burgundy color is the default one, you know, in the thumbnail, and I do love that one as well. Since we do have quite a few rooms in this house, I decided to use one of them as a workout room. So we got lots of mirrors on the wall. I always find it a bit helpful to check your posture and stuff like that with the mirrors. So I thought, why not do it in The Sims as well, like add it here. There's a yoga mat. I love using those for my Sims, and just a few other workout equipment like the weight machine, the boxing bag thingy. And yeah, pretty standard for a house like this, perhaps. So whenever I have spare rooms in these bigger houses, I think my go-tos are always an office or study area or a workout room or fitness studio, however you would like to call it. Yeah, those two. Otherwise, I could have added a library in here as well. Those are always nice, especially for older homes. I love to add libraries, and I should do better at remembering to add those actually. So I've still got a few houses left in Willow Creek as well, like in the top middle neighborhood where the goths live. And I only have the goth house there so far, and I would love to do more of these older homes like Victorian, Gothic, maybe even New Orleans inspired houses. So I'll have to get on with that pretty soon as well, after I'm getting close to, you know, doing the speed builds of all the other builds that are just waiting for me to finish them. But I've got some inspiration photos on Pinterest, and I hope it will not take me too long to continue that neighborhood. And sometimes I feel like that sort of architecture style can take a bit of time for me to get them right, so crossing my fingers it will go all right. Like I mentioned earlier on, Rosa's bedroom is quite pink, perhaps not overwhelmingly pink, as I tried to do some accent walls here to even it out a bit. And honestly, there's a lot of pink in here. I used this bed from the Life and Death pack, I do believe it is. I haven't really used this one a lot because it's honestly not the most versatile toddler bed, mostly because of the style of it. It looks a bit fancy, and that's honestly why I use it in this house. So I just went for the neutral all white swatch, and it's got this top part, I think is called a canopy or something, and it's just like very fancy for a toddler bed in my opinion. And I decided to put the bed into this nook between the built-in wardrobe and the wall. It fit perfectly in there. However, when Rosa grows up into a child, you would probably need to move some things around in here to fit a normal, like, kid-sized bed. Sometimes I do think about that, like, layout-wise, but this time I realized I didn't think about it. So yeah, I just tried to fit in some toys for her as well, like the toy box, the building blocks. I even fit in one of these big plushies that you can talk to or hit, or whatever mood your child is in. And yeah, there are these big beautiful curtains from the Wedding Stories pack as well that just had this beautiful pink color that matched the wall really well. So I just felt inclined to include them here. And then there's Jay's bedroom that is quite the opposite of his half-sister's bedroom. Again, like I mentioned earlier, his one is much darker, lots of dark brown wood, but he actually does have a bit of a similar bed, I just realized, with the canopy. And this one is from the City Living pack, and it's just stunning. Like always, I just wish it would come in more neutral swatches because there's a lot of colors and not enough variety of colors on the bed frame, to be honest. But yeah, there's also a study space for him and lots of built-in wardrobes as well. Other than that, I'm just finishing up the build here and we'll soon head into the screenshots. So that's basically it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more content in the future. If you want to be notified of when I upload a video next, make sure to click the bell icon too. This build is playtested and up on my gallery. My ID is honeymaysims, or you can find me with the hashtag honeymaysims as well. You can also find the tray files in the description. So thank you all so much for hanging out with me today as we built this Mediterranean family home, and I can't wait to talk to you all in the next video. Until then, take care. Bye!